morning, everyone. I now wish to start a series to understand Golus and Geula, because we're entering in another week, 3 weeks of mourning, culminating in Tisha B'Av, where it was decreed in the desert that although the people were on the border of Eretz Israel, because they were guilty of not wanting to enter the beautiful land promised by Hashem, as a result of that, they had to wander to the next generation, 40 years, and even Moshe Rabbeinu could not enter the promised land. And this all happened on Tisha B'Av, where it says the people cried on that night. But that crying on that night was also the origin of the way in which even when the people were able to enter the land, and they were able to build the temple was destroyed on the same night, same date, 9th of Av. The first temple, second temple, destruction of the last stronghold of Beitar also took place on Tisha B'Av. And then, in the Middle Ages, the expulsion of the Jews from England and France took place also on Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. And then came the terrible Inquisition of Spanish Jewry by the Catholic Church. And the golden period of Spanish Jewry came to its close, and the Jews were banished from the land without their possessions in the year 1492, the same year Columbus, some say he was a hidden Jew, but he was supported by many Jews in the expedition, discovered America, went on the voyage. And in that year, also on Tisha B'Av, the people of it who had benefited so much and brought so much benefit to Spanish Jewry were exiled without their possessions. And the only pity to remain, they would convert to Christianity. So many of them, through pressure of circumstances, they became hidden Jews. And in a hidden way, they still kept a certain aspect of Judaism that should not be discovered by the secret police of the Inquisition. If they were discovered, then they either had to openly commit themselves to every aspect of Christianity and give up all Jewish practices, or if not, they were tortured until they did agree. And the tortures were so strong, there were many who gave up their lives. They said that the only alternative was they'll be burnt by a fire, public, if they're not willing to change. So this was Tisha B'Av, which caused the Jewish nation, what was left of it, to wander from place to place. And then came another Tisha B'Av. Anti-Semitism was strong in many areas where Jews were living, and also in Europe, especially in Germany, many movements against the Jews. The Jews were assimilating, it didn't help them very much. And on Tisha B'Av came the First World War. It started on Tisha B'Av in 1914. And the First World War, which brought so much misery, led to the Second World War. Churchill, his history, describes the connection with the two world wars. It's very close. One understands the movements that took place of opposition between Germany and the other powers. If we called it the second 30 years European War, which led to two world wars. It's the author San Remo decision, which had to do also with the Holocaust, all that took place on Tisha B'Av. So Tisha B'Av shows us there seems to be a certain guiding hand in history. It's his story. Hashem is telling us, learn from your mistakes. The nation that forgets its past will repeat the mistakes of the past and have no future, or become collapsed, disintegrate in the future. But there's going to come a time, it says, Tisha B'Av is Karao Lai Moed. It's got aspects of festivity, potentially. But when the Mashiach will come, it will be transformed into a festival, the festival of the Geula. And so what we're going to do now in this series is to try and trace the Galut and how ultimately it can lead to the Geula, the redemption. We as Jews should not fall into despair from what's happened in the past and think there's no future. Everything in the Bible teaches us that the past contains the seeds and all the hope of the future. There's a principle in life that has to do with a specific relationship between the creator of life and mankind, that Hashem deals with human beings measure for measure. If we will only learn to live according to the will of God, as is described in the Bible, and as it's contained deep down in the divine image of the soul of each human being, that it's up to us. If mankind will turn to God, they're redeemed. If they go away from God, they'll be destroyed. So the difference in Golah, Gimel Vav Lamed Hey, and Geula. Golah is exile. What's Geula? Redemption. And what's the difference between the two in letters? Can you tell me? No, all of you tell me. What's the difference spelling between Golah and Geula?
One has a vav, the other has a vav.
They can both have a vav. Golah you can spell Gimel Vav Lamed Hey. Geula, you have to add another letter. Which letter? An Aleph. Put in an Aleph, and then you see the exile has to be filled in by the Aleph. The Aleph is the first letter of the Aleph base, number one. And there's a number one. For us, the number one is Anochi, the ego of the universe. The one central spiritual power that is constantly creating all energy and even all powers of thinking and powers of doing of the human being. And he's given a spark of this unique power, the Aleph, into the human heart. That's the ego of the human being. The ultimate ego of purity, which links up with Hashem. But that can only come about if the word ani, which we use constantly, I, all the time in our conversation, everything, I think this, I do the other. We've got to learn to recognize that that I is an ayin. Transpose the letters, you have Aleph, Yud, Nun, an ayin. And as Shlomo Melech said, a chokhmah me'ayin timatzeh. True wisdom comes from the ayin. What's the ayin? The negation of the individual feeling of the self. Because the feeling of the self that governs nearly everything that we do is linked up with our awareness. You've got a body, you've got desires and instincts, all part of the self. But there's another self. If we nullify the external self and think back, where did it come from? We'll come to the conclusion to recognize Baruchi nafshi es Hashem, my soul should link up and bless and know it all comes from the divine soul. Therefore I have to bless Hashem. I have to know myself as its roots an inner spark of spirituality, which expresses itself in our life here below, it being linked up with the material self. But underneath the material self there's a divine self, which links up with the mind of the universe, with Hashem himself. And every aspect of the human conscience, which is called frequently the prick of the conscience, is the innermost part of the self, which links up with the divine self. That's why the one who reached the highest level possible of a human being on this earth is a person who was anav ma'od mikol adam asher pnei adam, was more humble and lowly than any human being from the beginning of creation till now on the face of the earth, Moshe Rabbeinu, because he was somebody who negated himself and thereby was able to link up in such a fantastic fashion with the divine self. He became the recipient of the highest levels of prophecy and it brought us that book of divine content known as the Bible, which has a great influence. But it's only amongst those who follow Torah Moshe Rabbeinu, as the last of the prophets said, Zichru Torah Moshe Abdi, he was the servant of Hashem, and recognized that all true wisdom comes from him. So from him, not only what was written to Chumash, was after described by the prophets, and further developed through the oral tradition, starting with Moshe Rabbeinu until today, whereby we can link up with the wisdom and the will of the mind of the universe, whose constant creation, creative power of all forms of energy, brings us to this fantastic experience of life, one which can be experienced on a higher level in the near-death experience. And today testified by millions of people. Because we don't today live in the age where there are such prophets as there used to be. But we do live in the age of the fulfillment of their prophecies. And therefore what before, in the time when the Torah was presented to the people of Israel, must have been regarded not only with regard to the future predictions, but also with regard to the innermost meaning of the lifestyle we're supposed to follow, as being very fanciful, difficult to understand. And today, mankind at the frontiers of discovery in all areas of life, material and also more spiritual and even psychic. All these areas of life which are being investigated today and proven through experiments are proving the truth of the Torah as it is predicted. In the book of Devarim, it says you have to preserve the enormous revelation of the will and wisdom of the Almighty, because ultimately the nations will learn from it how they will also accept this wisdom of God and change their lives, and the whole of the human race will reach the higher level which is described today on the walls of the United Nations building, that people will no longer learn warfare and transform all their weapons into tools to produce an equal distribution of the wealth of this planet for all human beings, who will thereby be saved from starvation and sickness, and war will become obsolete. And instead, all mankind will experience and accept the kingship of heaven. So this is all contained also in Tisha B'Av, in this short journey we're going to make from the beginning of Tammuz, middle of Tammuz, until Tisha B'Av, Galut and Geula. So we're going to turn now with which Galut are we in now, because there's a description already in the later prophets, especially in the vision of Daniel, of 4 empires that would persecute the people of Israel. And the question is, which is the 4th empire? So one of the earliest post-Talmudic commentators of Sadi Gaon, very great philosopher, he claims that the 4th empire, referred to frequently in the prophets, is the combination of Esav and Ishmael. It's a follow-on of, let's call it in larger terms, Roman and European persecution. We would say perhaps the worst of which we experienced under the Nazis, and a combination of that with Ishmael, where there's already prophecies that Ishmael is going to persecute the people of Israel in the most cruel manner imaginable, which is mentioned already in the Chumash. So he says it's both together. That's the 4th kingdom. It would appear from many other thinkers that they say Ishmael, since they were not really an organized empire ever, they're just different bands of Bedouins, largely, different warring factions, who are more culturally the successors of the family of Ishmael, Islam. But the Islamic State, even today, has not yet been established as one state. A lot of different groups. They're trying to make it a world state. So therefore, the other 4 kingdoms were organized with particular outlooks on life, following in what we're told in the seeds of the whole of mankind mentioned in the first book of the Chumash, in Bereshit, in Genesis, following the example and the words used concerning Esau. And then Esau was followed by 3 other kingdoms. Next one was Babylon, some Persia, the Romans. So this is one tradition of many others. Therefore they say the 4th kingdom is Edom. But even Ezra says, no, the fourth kingdom is Islam. And there's prophecies concerning this fourth kingdom. The others say, it's certainly a big power. It's going to become a world power. And it will become intermingled and join in and perhaps absorb the cruelties and many of the methods used to destroy Jews, which they've taken over and combined. As was already shown actually, but today we're in succeeding events that take place. We understand what's going on, which couldn't be understood before. Because even the Holocaust had in it as a full partner the Mufti of Jerusalem, who distorted the Quran and brought many massacres against the Jews in the same style as Hitler in Marshamot. And together with Hitler, it was he who produced the Nazi manifesto to destroy every Jew in the world. So we see already the corruptive power of Edom, but in the guise and taking over the increasing populations of the Muslims. In contrast, say with both regards, in the Christian world, in the world of Western civilization, in the Muslim world, also amongst those who are perhaps more true to what seems to be represented in the Quran. For example, there's no mention of Jerusalem as having any holy part for Islam. That's a later development, introduced partly by the extreme element who distorted the original Quranic traditions. And there's certainly even today also an element in Western civilization, in Christianity and in Islam that rejects this most irrational, extreme movement of hatred and death. But that's what we're in today. So there's no question, Ishmael is a big power today. So in order to understand Ishmael, because it is certainly, everyone agrees, is a Chalot Ishmael. Many things that previously we thought were figures of speech have become, unfortunately, most frightening and terrible realities. The threats that we receive to destroy every Jew in the world. So I'd like to start at the beginning. We know the Bible is a fantastic work. Unbelievable what we read in the Bible. We can only believe it properly when we see it happening. And the first book of the Bible goes into some detail concerning the forefathers of the people of Israel. We should know it says, before the first few chapters deal with the development of man into the 70 nations. And those 70 nations contain the roots of all the nations of mankind. And there a nation is not described as racist, because the Bible is anti-racist. You see, right from the beginning, it describes the 70 nations, also in terms of the ethnic distinctions between them. Ethnic means the families. It's a family of nations. They start from one man. They're all related. But they develop, it's quite different one from the other. These different families, they became nations. Clans and then nations. And it's described in the Pasuk of the Chumash. These nations are defined according to Logoy Ehem, which means their national characteristics. But Ba'atotam, they also divide in different lands in the dispersion, different geographical locations, where most of them stay. Another distinguishing aspect is the languages, which also it's in different languages. Although there are certain unified aspects of languages found in the original language, which was really Hebrew, if you analyze it deeply. The early aspect of Hebrew is reflected in most of the languages. So you have as it says, ethnic v'mishpachotam, v'legoyehem, the special characteristics, different groups, l'shonotam, the linguistic distinction, and the geographical distinction. That makes up different nations, or parts of the world. And then at the beginning of the 12th chapter, we're told now about something else. There came Avram Avinu, a man who really sought God. This get of mankind that unfortunately lost its connection with God, as the pure master and mind of the universe, and the power behind all his story. So, Avraham Avinu, through him will be blessed all the families of the earth. Those that accept him will have great blessing. Those who curse him, who don't want Avraham Avinu, who represents the highest level of the spread of love in the universe. He was called the lover of God and the lover of man. To go and work against movements of hatred in the family and in the family of nations. That was his task. We're told of all his great potential. He said, through you will be blessed all the families of the earth. It means not himself as a person entirely, but his influence, both through his teachings as well as through his descendants. So indeed a continuation. They were barren, he had to pass many tests on his high level. In the end, they took Hagar, who had an Egyptian idolatrous background, and left it, his daughter Paro, and she became the Giorat, on the level of Abraham, Sarah. She accepted to be a servant and a student of the path of life of Abraham and Sarah. So, gesture was made that surrogate motherhood. She will bear the child, and Sarah will raise the child. This child will become the one to be the successor. And Abraham, he saw in him good qualities, but also not so good qualities. But he certainly raised him with Milah to be part of the covenant he made with Hashem. In fact, if you look carefully in Chumash, the promise was given because he was willing to make a covenant with Hashem, to follow the path of Avraham Avinu of loving kindness, and to retain the belief in one God, and to do away with idolatry. So he was given a great blessing. And if you look carefully, it says there, an area will be given to the seed of Abraham of 10 nations, which includes the whole Middle East. Go into it more deeply. But then afterwards, miraculously, Yitzchak was born. So it was just even like the fact that Avraham Avinu was regarded as a prince of God by the idolaters. Wherever he went, he brought people nearer to Hashem. It's likely even the Far Eastern religions, which had a moral core and also an aspect of spirituality, was the Brahmins. The Brahmins meant these are people influenced by Abraham. So Abraham and Sarah had great influence. But it's only through Yitzchak, who was loyal in the extreme, even to give up his life for Hashem, to follow with Avraham Avinu in every aspect, that the covenant was made that the land of Israel itself would be given to his seed because of his Brit Milah. So let's have a look to understand the source of all this in chapter 17 of Genesis, where it describes what happened when Sarah was still barren and then Hagar became pregnant. So when she became pregnant, she began to think, oh, I'm the true wife of Abraham, Hagar said. Sarah doesn't have a continuity, and I do have it. When she was pregnant, she said, well, I'm now the mistress of the house. So I said to Abraham, what do you mean? I gave my maidservant your bosom. She saw that she was pregnant. So then she treated me in a light-headed manner and thinks she's the true wife. Because I'm the one who's bringing consideration. So Abraham said, look, you should do what you think is right. Because you've got to bring her to her senses. It says, Vataneo Sarah. So Sarah said, right, I'm going to know you. You've got to recognize you're my servant, not my mistress. And she treated her not in such a kind manner. So she fled. So I can't stand it anymore. Although previously she'd seen angels around. She saw this was the place, the heavenly place. But it was too difficult for her. But she said herself, apparently she said, God loves me more than he loves Sarah. So what happened? She fled. And the angel of Hashem, he found them on her oasis where they were quenching their thirst. So the angel says to her, where'd you come? Where are you going? She said, I'm fleeing from my mistress. We'd not already called her a mistress, but she thought she's not being kind to me, being a bit cruel to me. On which, by the way, the Ramban says, the cruelty of the descendants of Ishmael, which were cruel throughout the ages, but never so cruel as today, as we see in Daesh. I mean, the cruelty against human beings is unbelievable, what they're doing. So, it comes because of Sarah. So he says if Sarah shouldn't have been so cruel, should have perhaps mitigated a bit, though she was justified to some extent. So the mother says to her, you go back to her. You've hit a need. Be ready to treat yourself as a servant of Sarah. So the angel said to her, listen, you should know that the baby that you're carrying is going to be a great nation. Prophecy. You're going to have millions of descendants are going to come from this baby. And then the Malach says you should know what name, I tell you now already, when you're pregnant, what name you should give him. Yishmael. Yishmael means God will listen. Kishma, because Hashem has listened to your affliction. She was afflicted because she was a bit bit too, she is very much wrong. But her sorrow shouldn't have afflicted her so much. So because of her affliction, Hashem is going to listen to your descendants, your millions of descendants. Because they're going to pray very hard also. And this is very significant. Because there's a contradiction. If you study this verse clearly, Yishmael means he will listen. And why was he given that name? Because God has listened to your affliction. So in the past, he should have said, he has listened, Shamael. So he should have given the name Shamael. God listened to you. It's you felt hurt. And because of your hurt, you still felt the relationship with Hashem, with God. You felt God's with you. Therefore you pray to God, it should help you. So I'm answering your prayers. And what's the answer? You're going to have millions of descendants, and God's going to listen to their prayers. That's why the Muslim until today, in fact somebody told me, got Muslims in his office in England, says, I'm a bit ashamed. The Muslim, they pray 5 times a day. They don't care who's around, they take out their praying mat and they say their prayers. And their longer prayers, my mincha in the middle of the day. I say 3 a day. They pray. Hashem listens to prayer. Yishmael, it's going to listen to you. Because Hashem listens, because Hashem listens. But you should know, don't think it's going to be easy with his millions of descendants. He's going to be, he's a human being, but he's like a wild animal, a wild donkey. Pere Adam. He'll be a pere before an Adam. He'll be like a wild beast, even though he's a human being. But this phrase was explained by me. They say, you should know, applying it to the day, that even if you find among many of these Muslims, they've been to Oxford, and they've got university degrees, they've written doctorates, and they're lawyers, educated, but they've still got that wild streak. Don't rely on it. Like our peace partners have got a doctorate. What's a doctorate? To disprove the Holocaust existed. That's his doctrine. And he makes feasts. He encourages many of his sections, the Muslims, who are supposed to be our peace partners. If they go and kill themselves and kill plenty of others, he makes a party for them and gives them special compensation for doing it. The wildness is there, Pere. We are cowboy. And everyone, if they find out, as a result, everyone else is against him, all the others. And then it says, he wants to rule over everybody else. Yeah? Yado Bakol, Yakobo. Yado Bakol, he wants universal. They want to make their type of Islam, they disagree which type they're going to choose, they want to make universal, to cover all mankind. And they'll die for it, and they'll kill for it. So, it's all mentioned here. Here we have the Galut Ishmael, from its inception, which took place in the pregnancy of Ishmael, until today. But still, Hogo saw, she said, okay, let's try and see if we should raise this boy to go and curb his wildness. So, this is where it all started. Now there's something else. I want to explain Ishmael. There's 2 explanations given. I've given 1 explanation. Another explanation, which we'll understand, because we've got an oral tradition on all these matters, all this goes very far back. We shouldn't think all this halachically goes back to Moshe Rabbeinu, together with the Midah. But when it comes to Agadah, everyone just says what he thinks. No. You find many Agadot that go back to the roots, ultimate truth. If you study the words of the Tanakh deeply, then you find there's a great deal here. And I'll read to the end of this first section. I'll just say this. I want you to turn to Tehillim, because Tehillim contains such a lot of hints of a prophetic nature of what's going to happen to mankind and the people of Israel and all the world before the redemption, during redemption. But in chapter 55 of Tehillim, there's description of many different eras of the Galut. What happens to the people of Israel in the Galut? In chapter 55, Jerusalem Bible 753, there is Maskil David. If you think more carefully what's going to happen in the long Galut of Am Yisrael, where there's also mentioned in the middle Hamas, the violent group amongst the nations of the world that hate the people of Israel. So it says there in verse 18, V'adal v'shalom nafshi mikrovli. The people of Israel pray to Hashem, please redeem my soul in peace against those who are attacking me. There were so many who came to oppose me. God will listen and answer. So Yishmael v'yar name is Yishmael. People got the name Yishmael in two words. God will listen, Yishmael. The same phrase used in the 70th chapter of Bereshit occurs here. It's what you call a Gezerah Shavah. It's using key words. The whole Tanakh is filled with key words, which are very significant. So one is Yishmael, as we've said now, God will listen to the suffering of the Muslims, and they'll cry to Him, He will save them. That's Yishmael. The promise given to Hagar for the as yet unborn Yishmael. The other explanation is the Yah name is not He will answer them, He will afflict them. Yishmael v'Yah name, which means, to say, the Muslims are going to be so cruel to the people of Israel. If we include the cruelty of the Mufti who made the massacre of the Yeshivat Hebron before Hitler did anything, and the massacre in Yerushalayim, and the enormous massacres which the Muslims have done and are continuing to do today to the Jewish people and to those behind the Jewish people. But God will listen. He's going to make all this suffering so that the people of Israel will cry to Hashem and save them. Now I'll tell you, it was the Mufti of Jerusalem who persuaded Hitler in Maximow's partner when he was very heavily involved in the engagement with Russia, on the Russian front, with his main army. He said to him, listen, you're forgetting about the Jews in Palestine, and you promised me, I've made preparations for death camps, you're going to kill them all. So please divert his army all the way up North Africa, and the army should go to Sinai Peninsula. And from there they should go and make an all-out attack. The Mandate's army is there, but there's no type of protection against Rommel's second army, go and attack them, and you can kill all the Jews there. What's more important, and Hitler said, Hitler said, most important thing for me is to kill all the Jews. And he must kill all the Jews in Palestine. Because what's the use? If they're going to run away, all the runaway Jews from Europe, they're going to run away to Palestine, and then Palestine will remain with Jews. And then from there they'll spread again all over the world. So you must have a Deutschland über alles. You got to do your part. I've helped you in different ways. You helped Hitler. You go and do your part. So the army went, and what did the Jews do? The Jews of Palestine, they prayed for 3 days. They fasted and prayed for 3 days. They should be saved. And they were saved by a miracle. Because the water, drinking water, for the German army was a technical hitch, and it flowed with seawater, and the army went down with dysentery, and they couldn't make progress, had to retreat. In the Battle of El Alamein. They retreated. And as a result, people were saved. And what happened in the 6-Day War? Same thing. 6-Day War. Surrounded all sides. Israel was being attacked by 70 wolves, the little sheep, from all sides, with huge armies, with hundreds of aeroplanes. They thought this is the end. And everybody prayed. All over the world, the synagogue prayed for 24 hours. And everyone, people prayed, don't let people die in Israel. Make all surrounding attack. They were surrounded 3 sides, from the north, from the east, and from the south. But they had to attack Jordan. They thought they'd keep Jordan out. No, Jordan joined in. And they were going to throw all the Jews into the deep blue Mediterranean Sea. Kill them before if they could. What happened? A huge miracle came through what? Through prayers. Because Yishmael v'yaneh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to listen to the people of Israel to stop the Arabs from destroying us. And that's what you've got to do today. Today the same. Today, it's a message for now. We're under terrible threat from all sides. We see that diplomacy doesn't work. Who can protect us from the mania of hatred and the worship of death, when the highest aim, even of our peace partner, is they should all become suicide bombers? And they're trying to get more and more. What happened now? What's happening? What happened in France now? By Nice happened a few days ago. Well, and they're getting ready. And Europe is absorbed amongst all, receiving all the refugees. Amongst the refugees, there's a good trick. There's a good part of them. They're potential suicide bombers from Daesh and other groups. So we're in such a dangerous situation. And we don't wake up to pray. We don't come in the morning to pray to Hashem. We've got to change it. Every one of us. Because it's pray. Yishmael means Hashem will listen ultimately to the enormous prayers that come from Am Yisrael. They save the Jewish people. Tell me, who do you expect to pray? People are not in yeshivas. Yeshivas shouldn't be all praying. How is it that some of you lays in, how can any Jew today lays in bed? Really, I know why didn't all the Chacham say you've got to fast 3 days? Because it's too much, But to expect, there's so many things we all have to do. But this is our power. We have the power of prayer. Mentioned here the name Yishmael. Yishmael v'yaneh. Even if they want to destroy us, we say, Hashem ultimately will help us. And that, if you go, I'm not going to this whole 55 of Tehillim, but that's the subject in many parts of Tehillim. In 83 of Tehillim, it describes all the nations that surround us here in Israel today according to their older names. It says they all get together that Amalek, together with Moab, together with Plishtim, together with Palestinians, they'll all come to want to destroy the people of Israel. How does it end? If we will pray to Hashem, our prayers are going to be stronger than the prayers of Islam. They are praying to the God of death, and we are praying to the God of life. And we have to do it in life. That is our test. We're not being tested so much that under the Christians, either you change your religion or it will kill you. No, this is it. So that's the important lesson for today. And we'll come to other lessons in Mitzvah Hashem. We can continue this year.